Howdy everyone. So today I'm gonna cover sketch basics in Onshape. So to start out, in my part file, I'm gonna create a new part studio, and we're just gonna run through like what all you can do with the sketch fairly quickly. So not like a ton of detail on when to use each feature, more on just how it works. So we'll just probably go down the line of all of these tools. So first thing is align, and it's a line. You'll probably already got that one. This next one, midpoint line, it's the same thing. It's just you start at the middle of the line. Now you have your rectangles. So corner rectangle goes corner to corner. Center point rectangle, center point, and then go out to get your like length and width. Aligned rectangle, it's the only one that's kind of different, and it's nice if you're working at an angle because you select like the primary angle with 2 points, and then you that'll base off or that'll make your like width or length, or whatever you want to call it, and then the other dimension is made with a third point, so it's a little bit more customizable. Next up, circles. So center point circle, just you start at the center of the circle. 3 point circle, it's really nice whenever you're using like projections of other geometry because it allows you to like basically select 3 points on the item, or if you like are doing something based on a physical design and you measure where 3 points are, uh, it lets you make the circle from that. So that one's pretty nice. And then ellipse, it's pretty much the exact same thing, except for it's an ellipse instead of a circle, so you choose two different points. And with all of these, whenever you see like the number with little white box around it, that means you can just start typing and insert the dimension for it. And that's how you can, at the time of creation, make dimensions for a part. I'm just going to clear this out to get a bit more space. And then we'll go on to arcs. So there's a 3 point arc. You choose the endpoints and then change the radius of the arc. There's tangent arc, which here, let me draw a line real quickly. It is just an arc tangent to a line. Center point arc is you start with the center, choose a radius, and then select your 2 points. Elliptical arc, same thing as the center point arc, except for you choose a width and a height for your ellipse, and then you select the distance the arc goes. Then conic, you choose the endpoints and make a conic arc, or I don't know what the proper term is. And then you can also customize the RHO, which basically changes how like sharp the cone is at the top. And then clear that off. And then we have an inscribed polygon. So it's inside, you choose the radius and then the number of sides. Then circumscribed is where the circle is on the outside, polygons on the inside. Same thing, choose the number of sides, and you can change this afterwards. Next up, we have our curves. So a spline, and if you know what splines are, it's basically local control with groups of three. And whenever you want to close off the spline, you can either close it by selecting like the original point or just double click. Then there's a Bezier curve, which it's similar to a spline, but like it forms a smooth curve. It's just how it works is different. If you actually do get into the math behind it, it's very interesting. Uh, then you can add a control point onto your spline with this function. There's also a point function, so you can just make a point. This is helpful for just like creating a midpoint in a line if you want to like do some sort of constraint, which we'll get to pretty soon. And then there's text, where you make a bounding box. Then you can choose the font, make the text bold, do flip. So whenever it's like on a weird part, and then uh, just type in your message and click the checkbox and it'll form the text. And then you can just move it around based on this bounding box. And I'm going to skip the project feature real quick because that requires another document. So I'm just going to go over the next few features. So this one, the construction, is just reference geometry. So as you can see, even when I make a closed shape, it doesn't fill in because the geometry is only meant for reference. So if you're using this, it won't affect your solid lines, but you can use these points for like your design like that. You can constrain off of them. They just don't affect the actual like areas of shapes. Next up, there's a sketch fillet and a sketch chamfer. Fillet, it fillets the corner, which is basically like a tangent circle. And then you can set the radius. Chamfer, it just kind of cuts off the corner. And you can set these two independently. They don't have to be the same. And I totally did not mean that to be 9 inches. But yeah, and you can change all the dimensions, just click on them. Next up, there's trim, which is where you can cut off parts for it. And it's like so whenever a line crosses, it'll split it up. So I can cut up this part here as opposed to like destroying the entire line. Then extend would be, if I'm like, oh, I didn't want to do that and I want to bring that line back, you can extend it. And then split, you just create a split in that line, and then you can add them separately. If I remove this constraint, and then just for like demonstration's sake, oh, it is still constrained somewhere. But it's mainly used if you want to like delete part of a line as opposed to using the trim feature. Offset will offset a continuous shape, and then you can either offset it in or offset it out. It has to be continuous, so if there's a split in it, it won't work. Then there's slot, which makes a slot of a certain radius around a line. Next up, we have the mirror. You select your mirror line, and then you basically just flip components around that line. And then there's patterns. So linear pattern makes basically a rectangle of the object. It doesn't actually have to be uh, like 90 degrees. You can change the control points, and then you can even delete the dimension to allow you to move where, like change the distance based on a constraint. Then circular pattern, you select the parts, and then you can move the center point, change how far it goes, and then change the number, of course. Then transform, it's really nice if you have like a bunch of parts and you want to move everything or scale everything. You can just drag it around and it doesn't matter if there's no constraints, everything will move as one. So now clear off a bit of space real quick. And I'll get into this later, but you can also insert a DXF or DWG. These are just like uh, basically files for a sketch, or you can insert an image to use as reference, which I will cover in one of the future videos. But for now, I'm going to go back to this part studio and let's create a sketch off of this, and I'll show you all how to use some of the last few tools. So I'll make a sketch on this plane, orient with it, and then this is where use and intersect come into play. So use is where you basically project the geometry up. So you're using geometry that's off the sketch plane, and when it's at an angle, it will like do projection so it becomes flat with that plane. Intersect gets the intersection with the plane. So if it's at a weird angle, like we had something coming up at a 45-degree angle, it would get the profile in that plane. And that covers all of like the creating points, but now it's how you actually make them all link together. So as you saw when I was typing stuff in, there's the dimensions. And if you don't do it originally, you can also use this dimension tool up here, or you can use the shortcut and you just type in your number. Additionally, you can dimension between two parts for an angle, or even between two parts for a distance, like that. And that's probably the most important sketch constraint. And then the rest of these are how you connect everything together. So the coincident will just make a point either match another point. I forgot I had this dimension. Either match another point, or if I go back and delete this, match a line. So whenever it's on a line, it's like the infinite line. So not just the line segment, but it can be anywhere on that path of the line. Next up, we have concentric. So used for circles or like a circle and a point. Then there's parallel, which as you can see, if you are doing a sketch that would like basically be that constraint, it will suggest to snap to it, like it's suggesting I snap to either an incident on the circle, tangent, or parallel. I'm not going to do any of those to demonstrate how the tools are used separately, but parallel makes the two lines parallel. Tangent makes the aligned tangent with a circle, or like a circle tangent with a circle. Then we also have horizontal and vertical, which you can see it just snapped to those. But if we put like a line at a angle, now we can do horizontal, which will make it perfectly horizontal, or make it vertical, which will make it perfectly vertical. You can also do a perpendicular mate, which will make it be at a 90-degree angle. So if I drag it over to the part I made it perpendicular with, you can see it's now 90-degree angle, even though this isn't like perfectly horizontal vertical, and it changes with the part. The equals constraint makes two things have the same size. So like circles, you can even do a like curves and stuff. You can use the equals constraint on those as well. And then midpoint, put something at the middle point. So with an actual point, you could just make the point the middle point of a line, or you can make like the end point of a line the middle point. And then let's draw another line here. Zoom in. Normal will make a line normal to a curve. So it just points out at the normal vector. Then I'm going to skip Pierce just for a second. Symmetric will let us make like a part be symmetric across a mirror line, not with like length, but like location. So now if we move these around, you can see that moving one affects the other with its angle and position, but not the length. Then fix just locks a part into place, and then curvature. I don't really use this tool much, but whenever you have like a spline, that's where curvature is used. Um, it like links up the curvature, but that's a bad example because the circle is already constrained. So if I now link it up, you'll see how it links this curve right here. And then if I like move these parts around, you'll see the curvature right here still remains the same. Now I'm going to clear all of this away. And actually, this isn't my first time recording this video, but the first time I had no idea what the Pierce tool did. I was like, oh, I don't use it, it's probably not important. It is now like my favorite tool. So sometimes with projections, the use tool or like an intersection, it doesn't exactly get where you want the line to be, especially when you're doing CAD at like a weird angle. So what the Pierce tool does is it allows you to constrain a part. Oh, that's annoying. But it allows you to constrain a part to non-sketch entities, which I don't know why it's not working on these. Uh, might be because there's like better ways to do it, but think it's mainly when it's going the wrong way for the sketch, like that, yes. Because whenever a line is coming like straight out of a sketch, so it's normal to the sketch plane, uh, you can't really use it well for the like intersection or project, especially if it's not in. Like it's see if you're trying to use it, it says it can't be projected. You can like project a specific point, but you can't use the line. So if it's like a curve, you have no recourse with it. So that's where I've really liked this Pierce tool and still getting to know how to use it a little bit, but it's pretty useful. So those are like a quick rundown of all of the sketch tools. And if you do notice over here, there's extrude and revolve, which are actually like 3D tools, but they are linked in with all of these sketch tools because sometimes when you're doing a sketch, like first off, these are two of the most common like things we'll use. You can just go straight to an extrude from your sketch, as opposed to having to confirm the sketch, exit out, and choosing the extrude. So now I was able to just directly add that part in. And let's go back. Oh, well, I already had a part studio. You really should name all of your part studios. Uh, whenever I'm doing CAD for like an actual design, as opposed to just like random ramblings for the lessons, I do make sure to name everything, and then folders for organization are so helpful. But yeah, so once you can use all of these tools, you can make uh, a lot of simple 3D designs by just using the extrude, which kind of just like raises a 2D shape up. So it's really important to get the sketch basics down, especially like using like sketches from other parts, which we're not there yet. It's a little bit more advanced. It's not too difficult once you get into it. It's just you need to know how to actually make the 3D part. But now y'all do know all you need to do to make a 2D design and then make it 3D. And if you want, you can use this extrude command. You have to reshow your sketch every time. Well, the second time you use it. But, and you can now make a pretty simple 3D design. So just practice with all of those sketch tools. Make sure you have them down. It shouldn't take too long. And like, if there are any issues, feel free to reach out to me or like ask a question to really anyone. Uh, but the sketches are like the biggest foundation for CAD design and being able to actually like think of a design and use all of these tools to make it come to life, especially more complex designs and being able to be efficient with your sketches. Like instead of just drawing a bunch of the same feature using a linear or circular pattern or mirroring designs, it makes you so much faster when you're doing CAD. So, highly advise getting some practice in with these. And then in the next video, we will move on from sketches and go into all of the 3D design tools. And after those two lessons, it'll get into a lot of the more advanced stuff with uh, like actually designing parts. Or well, might have another simpler lesson on like doing a design in assembly, just cover all the parts for that. But at most, two more lessons after this before it goes into the more design aspects and a lot of stuff like specific to robotics or like learning about Onshape's more advanced features like feature scripts. So just get some practice in, make sure you have all the basics down. Thanks and gig 'em.